We'll get more of the latest developments in the Russia-Ukraine war in just a moment. But let's take a look at some other stories from elsewhere. In the aftermath of the twin blast that killed over 100 people near the tomb of former Iranian General Qasem Soleimani, Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has vowed Iran will respond harshly. The attack in Kerman, southern Iran, wounded dozens more people and happened on the 4th anniversary of Mr. Soleimani's death. Meanwhile, the death toll has been revised down this morning to 84, but no group has yet claimed responsibility for the attack. President Ibrahim Raisi's political deputy, Mohammed Jamshidi, has blamed Israel and the U.S. Suspicion may fall on Arab separatists and Sunni jihadist groups like the Islamic State to have carried out attacks on civilians and security forces in the country in recent years. At the time, the IS welcomed the death of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani, whose militants or militias fought against the group in Iraq for years. And the United States has rejected any suggestion that it or Israel was behind Wednesday's deadly blast and warned against any further escalation. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller said the United States was not involved in any way, and any suggestion to the contrary is ridiculous. We have no reason to believe that Israel was involved in this explosion. As we have said before, the twin blasts come on the anniversary of Mr. Soleimani's assassination, and a day after a suspected Israeli attack killed the number 2 leader of Hamas, Saleh al-Aruri, in the southern suburbs of Lebanon's capital, Beirut.
With respect to the explosions in Iran today, what I'll say, we have been following the reports rather closely. We don't have any independent information to offer on them. We do express our sympathies to the victims and their loved ones who died in this horrific explosion. As I said, it's too early, at least for us, to be able to say what might have caused it. But I do want to address some of the irresponsible claims that I have seen circulate and say that, number one, the United States was not involved in any way, and any suggestion to the contrary is ridiculous. And number two, we have no reason to believe that Israel was involved in this explosion. And with respect to the development yesterday, I will say that al-Aruri was a brutal terrorist who was centrally responsible for the attacks of October 7th, as well as other attacks against innocent civilians leading back to well before October 7th. It's not in the interest of any country in the region. It's not in the interest of any country in the world to see this conflict escalated any further than it already is, and that's the message we will continue to send. We have sent this very direct message to Hezbollah, to other entities in the region, that now is not the time to think of escalating further. And you've seen us take deterrent steps to deliver that message. You've seen us take diplomatic steps to deliver it, and we'll continue to deliver it. I don't want to respond specifically to every comment they make, because they've made comments in the past of similar nature, but we continue to believe it is not in Hezbollah's interest, just as it is not in Israel's interest, to escalate this conflict in any way. But what we hear in our engagements with Palestinian leadership, with Palestinian civil society leaders, with Palestinians, is that they do not want to be forcibly removed from Gaza, that they want to remain in Gaza, and that is a choice that we support, that we support and that we fully endorse.
We're learning some of the big names on late U.S. sex offender Jeffrey Epstein's list of connections are the UK's Prince Andrew and former U.S. President Bill Clinton. Their names are found in newly released records that form part of a case against Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's girlfriend, who has been jailed for helping him abuse girls. But the documents so far unveil no major new allegations about Epstein, nor revelations about his associates. Prince Andrew is accused of groping a woman, which he denies. Other names in the documents include singer Michael Jackson and magician David Copperfield, though no wrongdoing is alleged. Mr. Clinton appears in a number of the documents. The former U.S. president has acknowledged being a former associate of Epstein, but he has strongly denied he had any knowledge of the crimes. Let's get more on this. Our London correspondent, Juliana Owusu, joins us more. Juliana, great to see you today.
Hi, Joker. Good evening.
Yeah, so what's the purpose, of releasing the names and documents of these connections? What could these individuals be prosecuted? And many have denied, and some people are dead already, like Michael Jackson.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Well, I think it just goes without saying, isn't it, that since we were informed in 2019 that the now disgraced money man Jeffrey Epstein had committed suicide in a Manhattan jail, that there were wild speculations and conspiracy theories basically relating to millionaires and billionaires and very, very powerful people, basically sex trafficking young girls to enjoy, some of their sexual depravity. So I think there, of course, has been lots of public interest. And I do believe that the Miami Herald, which is a publication in America, they asked this New York judge to release these documents. And of course, it is very much hotly anticipated. So last night, I believe about 40 documents were unsealed. I believe there are about 250 documents. So we are going to get more in the coming days, but 40 documents were concealed. There's over 1,000 pages of evidence, which is why we're getting information about who visited the island, who was associated with Epstein in drips and drabs, because it is very, very difficult to go through. As you said, a lot of the names that appear, I believe there were 170 names listed. Many of them are high profile, including the likes of former US President Bill Clinton, of course, the Duke of York, Prince Andrew, as you said, the late singer Michael Jackson, as well as supermodel Naomi Campbell, Leonardo DiCaprio, Cameron Diaz. Several names have been linked to Jeffrey Epstein. But I think it's very, very important, Joker, that we mention that this is just a link. There is no suggestion that those listed even knew about his crimes or participated in any criminal behavior. But of course, that doesn't relate to everybody. Of course, Clinton himself, both Bill and Hillary, have denied having serious ties with Jeffrey Epstein. In fact, I think Bill Clinton has put on record that he actually never visited that terrible home in his private home in Miami, and that he was only linked to Jeffrey Epstein through the Clinton Foundation. Now, of course, there are victims who have denied that, and they say that absolutely he was. In fact, I think in one of the documents, it was revealed that perhaps Jeffrey Epstein had said to a victim that Clinton likes them young being young girls. And of course, I think we can all remember that Monica Lewinsky was just 22 years old when she was having an affair with the then President of the United States. Not great for him. So as you were saying at the top, Joker, I don't believe the evidence that was unsealed last night has really shone any further light on what we now know about the disgraced late paedophile. But certainly it just goes to show that, this wasn't just about Jeffrey Epstein. This wasn't just about his former girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, who was sentenced to 20 years in prison for aiding and abetting him. This is so much more. It affects so many more people. And I think as conspiracy theorists are running wild, this story is just full of scandal, isn't it?
Yes, certainly. And talking about those conspiracy theories, the Duke of York has denied, any connections, with Mr. Epstein. But do the UK people believe him?
Well, gosh, to answer that in a short answer, I would say no is probably the answer. I think it's pretty fair to say that the Duke of York's royal if you could call it a career, is very much over. I think the last time we saw him out in public was at Christmas Day. I believe he joined the family. Of course, he's eldest brother, King Charles III. I believe at Sandringham. He was with his former wife, Fergie, Sarah Ferguson, the former Duchess of York, who is pretty popular in America, actually. Since she left the royal family, she's got quite a large following, and she has been standing right by her former husband. So I think he knows that, of course, if he's pictured with her, that's always great for him. But, you know, it was the Queen, the late Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, that actually removed many of the titles and the patronages that Prince Andrew had once he settled out of court with Virginia Giuffre, who, by the way, is the centre of this story, because these documents that have been unsealed relate to a 2015 case between Virginia Giuffre and Ghislaine Maxwell. So she is at the centre of the releasing of these documents, and she alleges that when she was 17 years old, she was forced into having sex with Prince Andrew 3 times. He has always strenuously denied. He has always strenuously denied these allegations, but he's settled out of court. We don't know what the sum is. Some suggest it was up to £10 million. Of course, I know lawyers may be watching. A settlement out of court doesn't admit to guilt, but it wasn't great. We, of course, then had that car crash interview in the BBC just a couple of months after Epstein killed himself. And again, it didn't look great. So, you know, you only need to go on X, formerly known as Twitter, to see what people are saying. I think the public appetite for this story is big. I think people are sick to their stomach, particularly in the UK, because I'm sure you know, Joker, a lot of the commentators like to have a massive dig at Meghan Markle and Harry, you know, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. I don't think you can compare them deciding to leave the royal family with some of the allegations that have been put up towards the Duke of York.
Right, and you did say, you know, some of his privileges have been removed, has been withdrawn from a lot of functions and, you know, going public. But even with that, is this not a stain big enough that you just can't scrub it away so soon?
Oh, no, absolutely. There is absolutely no way that this stain is going to be removed, particularly as we are expecting more. As I said, last night, the New York judge did allow the releasing of these previously unsealed documents, over 1,000 pages. We only have 40 documents. There are 250 documents. So we're expecting at least 5,000 pages more going into this matter of the deposition and names that are mentioned. And there are 175 names. But of all the names, I believe that Prince Andrew, if he's not the first or second, he's right up there with being named the most. I believe he was named 67 times. And it's not just about Virginia Giuffre, who is the blonde lady who is at the centre and the heart of this story. There are several other allegations. I do believe, again, all of this is alleged that, you know, he's been accused of groping another woman who was working with Jeffrey Epstein at the time. I do believe there are several others. In fact, you know, some of the detail is so colourful. I'm not able to even refer to it at this time of the day. But certainly this is an absolute stain. But anybody that understands anything about the British media and their relationship with the royal family can put one and one together and realise that we're not going to get the thrashing and the trashing of Prince Andrew that we would have got for somebody like Meghan Markle or Prince Harry. So I wouldn't say he's being protected by the British media, but certainly the outrage that we're seeing on social media platforms isn't really being reflected on traditional media in the UK about him.
Yes, I must ask you this last story. I know that Queen Elizabeth II had her ways of dealing with some of these issues before her death. Now we have someone new on the throne, her son, King Charles. How is he, you know, what are you hearing on how he's dealing with these issues in even protecting the monarchy?
well, you know, there's a very well-known saying when it comes to the royal family: never explain, never complain. So no comments from them today. However, to put on record and to state unequivocally, you know, they've always denied that, you know, any wrongdoing took place. However, Prince Andrew, in that bombshell car crash BBC interview in 2009 on Newsnight with Emily Matlis, he said he regrets his relationship with him. I think that's the furthest we've got when it comes to comment from the royal family. But I don't think it's, you know, there's no love lost between the two brothers. I think most people who follow the royal family knew that Prince Andrew was the late Queen's favourite. He's two children who are not close to becoming an heir of the throne. You know, they were given privileges and used to fly around the world with security at a huge cost to the taxpayer. And all of those things have been cut by King Charles. I think he understands the importance of the continuity of the monarchy, which is why perhaps once or twice a year the Duke of York will be rolled out to attend church at Christmas or to attend events that are huge, and you would expect to see him. But in terms of, you know, cutting ribbons at hospitals, turning up to open new centres for charity, we're just not going to see him. I think, you know, the royal family understand the significant damage that can be done by putting him up front and centre. And, you know, paedophilia, suicide, death, sexual harassment, these are really horrible terms. And, you know, our hearts obviously go out to the victims, particularly because they were entrapped by a very, very powerful elitist web, which is why I think, Joke, there is so much public interest in this story, because we know that most people who are in power are never held to account, which is why the unsealing of these documents, even though it's not giving us much new information, it's important for people to know who was and who wasn't associated with the disgraced paedophile.
Right, Juliana, thank you for explaining that further.
Thanks, Joke. Thank you.
Let's move on. Japanese rescue workers are working within a small window of opportunity to find those who have survived the deadly 7.6 magnitude earthquake that hit days ago. At least 84 people are now known to have died in the disaster. Earlier, Prime Minister Fumio Kishida said we must continue putting all of our efforts into rescuing people even beyond 72 hours after the disaster. Emergency responders say survival rates drop off 72 hours after a quake. So far, 156 people have been rescued, but at least 179 others remain unaccounted for. To another near disaster, authorities in Sweden say they have succeeded in evacuating people trapped in 1,000 vehicles in heavy snow for more than 24 hours. Rescuers worked through the night to free people stuck on the main E22 road in the area of southern Sweden. Many of those trapped were evacuated by rescue teams and told to return to their cars later. The travel chaos occurred amid plummeting winter temperatures across the Nordic countries. Extreme cold weather has hit parts of Sweden, Finland and Norway, and snowstorms in Denmark have left drivers trapped on a motorway near Aarhus since Wednesday. The Kivijok-Aranjaka weather station in northern Sweden recorded its coldest night for 25 years on Tuesday night, with temperatures dropping to minus 43.6 Celsius. Rescuers said all people traveling by car had been evacuated and only lorry drivers remained in their vehicles by this morning.
And then he paid $100 in gas.
Yeah. We're in Africa now. Former Sierra Leonean President Ernest Bai Koroma has been charged with 4 offences, including treason for his alleged role in a failed military attempt to topple the government in November. A court in Freetown made the revelation on Wednesday, but there's concern the decision could escalate tensions in the country after the attempted coup and a contentious election in which President Julius Maada Bio was re-elected for a second term in June. Frictions have been on the rise in the country, which is still recovering from a 1991 to 2002 civil war that killed more than 50,000 people. The result of the election was rejected by the main opposition candidate and questioned by international partners, including the United States and the European Union. Earlier, my colleague, Leone Laride, spoke with the journalists on the ground about the charges and Mr. Kuruma's whereabouts. Not quite done with Africa, Kenyan President William Ruto is in the news for his threat to disobey court orders from those he called corrupt judges. On Tuesday, the Kenyan president, who said some unnamed judges teamed up with opposition politicians and cartels to block his government's projects. But in a swift response, Chief Justice Martha Koome said defying court orders was a breach of public trust placed in state and public officers. Koome said when state or public officers threaten to defy court orders, the rule of law is imperiled, setting stage for anarchy to prevail in a nation. She also urged judges to continue performing their judicial duties without fear or favor. Well, Kenyan journalist Cyrus Mbati joins us now from Nairobi. Cyrus, great to have you today.
Good to have you too.
Right, so what's going on with President Ruto? Are his comments post-election a backlash?
Well, that's what is emerging, because he's realizing that what he thought that it could be a free or a smooth running of the government has become a kind of a hard thing to do, because most of the program is trying to rush through his government, kind of being challenged in court, because even the courts are finding that to be legal or unconstitutional one way or the other. So I think he's finding kind of challenges and difficulties in implementing most of what he had promised in his manifesto. So it's a backlash, election back. Whatever he promised, he thought it would be a smooth sailing, despite the fact that he was a deputy president for 10 years. So he's finding it so difficult to do what he wanted.
Right, and what are these projects that the president is claiming that the judges have tried to block?
One of them is an issue of having free kind of affordable housing program across the country. So there was a case which was taken to court, and the court found out that the whole program was more of unconstitutional. So the court said it to be stopped. And the other one was on the issue of a free healthcare program, which also was found to be somehow illegal, and the courts also stopped the same. So he's also bitter about the whole thing. Another case is about the Kenyan troops being taken to Haiti. A court stopped the whole thing. So he's frustrated, and he finds it so difficult to implement some of whatever he wants to do.
And can the judges take any action against the president? They've cited a lot of things wrong with his stance that are illegal and not against the country's constitution. So can the judges take any action against the president at this time?
Well, I mean, him is shielded by the law, because you can't sue him criminally. But then once you say that whatever he's doing is unconstitutional, if we had a strong parliament, we can use that to impeach him. But now the parliament is also captured, so there's nothing much can be done about it. The only thing that they are stopping the whole programs that is launching here and there. So it's just embarrassing in one way or the other. Then he's frustrated. There's nothing he can do more. He's also his hands are tied in one way or the other.
Well, tell us more about these programs. Did they ever come to light? Were the judges, are they correct in blocking, the projects that they say are illegal? These are projects that are meant for the people.
Yeah, because the litigants, the guys who are going to court, they are raising constitutional issues. They are issues which are legal, kind of legally binding by law. So you can't say that the judges are making their own. This case are taken to the judges, and both those who are pro and those who are against, they go and argue before the judges. The judges agree with those who are against the same. So you can't say a judge that is making his own case. It's a case that has been taken to his desk, and he's making a decision based on what has been presented as evidence. So really, you can't blame a judge that he made a wrong decision or the same.
Right, it's hard to decipher whether or not the Kenyan judges are corrupt, but do the people have any reason to believe the accusations against the president?
The acquisitions are coming at the wrong time because even Ruto himself, he came to power through courts. They remember when his case was challenged in the court when he was coming a president, is the Supreme Court which approved his being in office. Previously, Mr. Ruto had been a kind of charged in court with various issues, whereby the courts allowed him to, or rather, kind of threw out his cases. So you can't say that just like a corrupt, a kind of a blanket condemnation unless you have evidence to say Judge ABC is corrupt. So far, Kenyans are coming out in kind of doubting whatever he's saying because they know that whatever is accusing them of, especially the housing fund, the free housing program, which actually posts in Kenya. They know he's doing that because he wants to intimidate them to remove the case so that he can be allowed to run with it.
Right. Thanks again, Cyrus.
Thank you so much.
Let's move ahead. The African Union and the US have called for the respect of Somalia's sovereignty and territorial integrity in response to a controversial deal that landlocked Ethiopia struck Ethiopia's deal with Somaliland for sea access. The deal has caused diplomatic tension, with Somalia condemning it as an act of aggression and violation of its sovereignty and vowing to challenge it by any legal means. Somaliland seceded from Somalia in 1991, but it's not internationally recognized as an independent state. U.S. Department of State spokesperson Matthew Miller on Wednesday again said the United States recognizes the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the Federal Republic of Somalia within its borders. AU Commission Chair Musa Faki has also urged for the respect of the unity, territorial integrity and full sovereignty of Somalia and Ethiopia. And he may have been re-elected, but it has not cleared up doubts on the part of the opposition, who have filed a petition challenging the re-election of DRC incumbent President Felix Tshisekedi. Theodore Ngoy, who came last with 0.02% of the vote, filed his petition on Wednesday at the Constitutional Court, hours before the lapse of the two-day window allowed for the petition. He says he wants the sham election results announced by the Electoral Commission cancelled. Two main opposition candidates, Moise Katumbi, who came second with 18%, and third-placed Martin Fayulu, say they will not challenge the results in court, but are calling for protests to denounce them. Now, here's a story to stir up your inner mushiness. It's of a giant panda cub just named Katsusha, trying her best to wake up her snoozing mother, Ding Ding. Katsusha is seen climbing all over Ding Ding, who resists in a vain attempt to get just 5 more minutes of rest. Moscow Zoo's giant panda cub was named Katsusha in reference to a popular Russian folk song following a public vote on the city's online portal. Over 380,000 votes were registered, with Moscow Mayor Sergei Sobyanin announcing the results the same day. He added that the top 3 names also included Masha and Momo after the city, with Katsusha winning with 112,000 votes. That's really cute. Well, thanks for watching. That's our program today. I'm Joke Rogers.